Hi there, this is a teaching coming to you from the Training Place of Excellence, and it's a teaching on double entry for sales returns. And you will notice we have the when season. It's a season when we're just recording a couple of questions and we're asking ourselves when something takes place. What will be your transaction postings? How will you deal with it in your accounts? And in this case, we're talking about sales returns. So it says to us, when a credit customer returns an item and VAT was charged, what will be the double entry posting? Hmm, a customer returned an item. They bought it on credit. Now they have returned the item. When they bought it, they hadn't paid me yet. So your debtors control account will be affected. That is to say, they're owing us some money. They are debtors to us. So SLCA or your debtors control accounts will be affected. Now, they are returning the item. They are no longer owing us. Your debtors control account is an asset in your hand. So they are no longer owing us that money. You want to reduce the amount that is owed. If the asset is increasing, you debit it. If the asset is reducing, you will have to do the opposite. So we will credit the asset account. Which asset are we talking about? We're talking about the debtors control account, which is the sales ledger control account. When it is increasing, you will debit the asset account. When it is reducing, you will credit it. As we see on the dead click, you will debit expenses, assets, drawings when any of these are increasing, and you will credit liabilities, income, and capital when any of these are increasing. So it implies to me that the debtors is reducing because the customer returned some things to me. They are no longer owing me the money. So I will credit SLCA, which is an asset in your hands. We credit SLCA with the gross amount. You debit VAT, you debit sales returns. Sales returns in this case is being seen as an expense in your hand, a cost that you are bearing. Because remember, when you sold an item, yay, great. It's income to your hands. And what's happening now? The person is returning the item. Oh, not too good. It is a cost, a burden that the company has to now bear. And that will be an expense being debited. Your sales returns is being debited and the VAT is also debited into that account. The VAT, please do bear in mind when you sell an item, VAT on sales is a liability to the organization. The company has to pay that VAT element to the government. It's not their money at all. It's for the government. So that VAT, when you sold the item, is a liability that has increased. Uh-oh, the customer has returned the item, so really I didn't sell it. So I want to do the opposite. You tell the taxman, please, taxman, remove that amount because the person has brought it back, so don't expect me to pay you the VAT on that amount. So I want to go and reduce my VAT liability, hence we debit the VAT. So literally, when you have a sales returns, you will debit your sales returns with the net amount, you will debit VAT with the VAT amount, and you will credit SLCA with the gross amount. Please remember, your sales returns is an expense that the company is bearing. And if the company is bearing that cost, when it is increasing, the more people return and return and return, your sales returns will be debited as an expense. Please do bear in mind as well, in your trial balance, your sales returns will be on the debit side. But do not forget that the sales returns on its own, in standalone, is a debit balance usually, and it is an expense or seen as an expense. But don't forget that when you have a transaction where you have got a customer that has returned an item, a transaction has taken place, and that transaction will lead to a double entry effect in your account. That is to say, you have to debit at least one account and credit at least another one account. the double entry principle. For every debit entry, there must be a corresponding credit entry. And if you're doing that, you will then find that when the transaction takes place, you debit and credit, and that's what we're looking at here. Not necessarily just how it appears in the trial balance. Okay, so that connected with the transaction itself. Your double entry to deal with a sales return will be to debit sales returns with the net amount, debit VAT with the VAT amount, and credit SLCA with the gross amount. I hope that has been useful. Please don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Connect with us across all the social media platforms. We will expect you to keep learning, and I hope you continue learning and developing your accounting skills. Adios and laters.